The Vivo V50 with stunning design and pro-level portrait photography. Buy now.
Velamal feels proud to honor the physical education teachers with 5 cars and 15 lakhs.
South India's #1 travel brand. You know you are special when you're with GT Holidays.
So we spoke about the germ of an idea of a PK, and Sanju, I'm assuming it just came across because you worked with him and that was a great story that you wanted to tell and you found it interesting. Anything else you want to add about the germ of Sanju?
No, it was just meeting with Sanju and he narrated so many anecdotes, and as writers, you are just filmmakers, all want is anecdotes, stories, and that seemed like the father-son relationship's interesting to me, so that's how we went with it.
But in this, there was a peculiar challenge that it could have gone into a controversy because this was like, let's say, yes, even PK could have gone into, and in fact, there were a few, things that came up with it and all that kind of, but so I mean, like, bans or whatever. But this is a person who was actually, so there is still, there's a bit of a divided opinion about him in public and all that. But did that ever play in your mind, ki, like, how will this particular subject, biopic, because like you say, as a biopic subject, it's a great subject because, this person has gone through, there's the parental issues, there's all these other, things that hardly anybody, like, he's got more packed into his life than probably 100 people would have.
Yeah.
So as a writer, you're right. It's like you're greedy for material and this is giving you that material. But did that ever play in your mind, ki, like, maybe this could be a little controversial?
So see, what happens now, once you get obsessed with a story and you feel, yeah, this is a story you want to say, then I think these things stop bothering you.
Okay.
Like even when I was in Lagaram, Munna bhai, as you talk about it, I remember there were friends who would walk on the shoot and say, ki, tum log kya kar rahe ho? Munna was sitting with Gandhiji and drinking in front of him. They're putting him in the taxi and saying, Bapu, ghar jao, late ho gaya, dark circles padega. What are you guys doing? And trust me, it never bothered me.
Yeah.
It didn't cross your mind. No, but I'm saying a story which is pro Gandhi, and these are scenes. They're not the film. So similarly with Sanju, when I heard that story, and it's not that I heard it from him only. I went out I spent a huge amount of time meeting outside people, including cops and everybody, because I wanted to be sure that I'm not saying a story which is, if he has those accusations on him and this kind of things, then I didn't want to walk that path. So I met tons of people and then I felt it's a fascinating story. See what happens now, actually, these are perceptions. I feel about a person. A lot of people came to me, how can you do after the film release, people still come sometimes and how can you do a film on him? I said, how much you know him? And you know him from where? You know him from what you've read about him, heard about him, seen something on YouTube about him, and you've not really known him, you've not really met him. So these are and even the media person who's met him, how much that person knows him. So you build a perception based on what you've read. That might not be the reality. So to me, that is my reality. Possibly my reality might be wrong tomorrow. But to me at that moment, that's my reality. And I'm feeling very fascinated with it. I feel there's a story in it. And there could be many stories. A courtroom could be a story, a jail could be a story. To me, the father-son story was fascinating. So I said, I want to do it. In fact, while I started making it, midway I started realizing, I said, have I lost perspective? Because usually stories are about achievers. So in this case, in this story, the achievers, in the sense, is his father who really fought for him or his friend who really fought for him. He, of course, kept on surviving, but he kept on going through all these things. So then you start doubting, most scripts are not like this. But by the time it was too late, we are into it. And I think Ranbir did a great job to hold it all together.
Yeah, and for me, that film's success is probably the most surprising for me among all your films. Not that I think it's a bad film or something like that, but because of the controversial nature of the thing, the way you were just saying, and it's just like, wow, that film worked like this. I think by then I pretty much like, you could do anything. No, that's the thing that happened, because if you could, sell this as a, like package this and sell it, because every film, I don't know whether the word packaging is right or not, but there's a certain, like way it comes across, there's a certain way it's brought out, and to realize that there was a market for this story and that people, like you said, because see, we go to the movies, a lot of people, okay, I go to the movies because I have to watch them, but regular people, they go to the movies because they want to see something triumphant, something uplifting. Three Idiots is a great example of like something that makes them realize, something that their own lives that could change or whatever it is. Same thing with Lage Raghamuna Bhai, whatever. So when you bring a subject like this, and for you, it was probably at that point the darkest film that you ever went into, because there was so much of non-Hirani, like gangsters, drugs, this, that, all that kind of stuff. So that was very interesting that became the success that it did. So
you never know, what affects people. And because I used to meet people and they would say, some father, some mother would get affected by the drugs the son was doing. They say, we are facing the same problems, and I think we're making mistakes in the way we're dealing it. So you really don't know what. And
yeah. What is the most difficult thing for you while making a film? It's a script?
Yeah, undoubtedly, script. Because that's what takes the longest, and you can keep working every day and not know till 6 months whether you're going to get something out of it, and you can dunk it anytime.
Right.
Once the script done, then it's just
execution
and practical things, and of course it's not, then it's physical work, and but yeah, scripting is the toughest, I feel.
But the thing is, like, there is a saying, right? Like, a script is never really done, it is abandoned, right? It's like, because you could keep on technically refining it.
True.
At what point does Rajkumar Hirani say, okay, that's it, I'm done, I can't, this is okay, this is the thing
No, it reaches a point. It definitely reaches a point. You keep working on it. Then you have to read it. You have to lock yourself in a room and read it in one flow.
Do you give some time where you don't touch it for a while and then?
So we work in pockets of 15 days, then take a few days off, then again 15 days working. And then give it a break, not long breaks. It could be just 3 days, 4 days, and then one day keep to read it, start to finish. And when you read it, that's the time you discover the gaps. Because in isolation, you're working on one scene, that'll become great. Another scene will become great. But when you put it together and you read it together, that you have to read undisturbed, and then you see the flaws. Then you say, oh God, now so much work is left. Then you again go on. Then you'll see 50 things. Gradually, those things start reducing. Then you'll come down to few things. It could be sometimes character-driven, that character is not working, a scene is not working, resolution is not. It could be anything. So, but at some stage you feel that now it's good enough. There is work, but I think we'll find the path.
Right.
So that's when you start thinking, okay, now start thinking of casting and putting it together. But as you rightly said, you keep working right till the end, and then you abandon it.
So the point is, you, even while pre-production is going on and all, you've sometimes worked on the script.
Yeah, during shooting also.
Okay.
During shooting also, you have to shoot a scene and then you say, this could be better. This could be, sometimes mistakes also happen. Ideally, we shouldn't work while you're shooting. So even on the shoot, actually, I leave it pretty open for anybody to improvise.
Right.
But you keep a hawk's eye on it, that because anything good which is coming, actors, if they're bringing something interesting, a cameraman, if he's bringing something interesting, why not? Let it come. But if the script is within you, then very quickly in a split second, you'll know, no, this is great, get it for the script, this is not working, remove it, do it on the spot. And any improvisation is great, take it.
Right.
Then again at the editing stage, you suddenly realize it's not working, it needs, sometimes you change dialogues, you put a long shot and change the dialogue, and many things keep evolving. Abhijat, though, I remember once for 3 Idiots, he went to a theatre to see some crowd reaction and suddenly thought of a line. He said, this should have been there. I said, Abhijat, it's too late now, it's running in the theatre. He said, but the DVD has not come out, no, why can't we put it in the DVD?
So when you're working so closely with Abhijat Joshi, which is like a regular writing partner, is there the fear, or like, are we too comfortable with each other? Should I sometimes maybe just one film? Because there are a lot of directors who work with, let's say, one cameraman for a long time, and then they say, okay, let's take a break, let's maybe work with somebody else and then come back. Like, it's not that this is wrong, it's just that they feel that maybe they've traveled a long time with this one person, maybe we'll switch to another person, let's see what they bring in. Has that thought ever occurred to you?
No, so see, we are always starved for good scripts. So with Abhijat, it's become a comfort now. So whenever we meet, we talk. But it's not that I keep meeting many writers, and I keep trying them, and I keep working them. So I keep developing projects with them. In fact, now I've got something which has come from some different writers. So, and Abhijat is now a friend, brother. So even if another film which comes in from somebody else, even if last final touches are given, he'll come in and help me on that, and all that can happen. So, but it's unfortunate that it's very difficult to find good scripts, and I'm completely open to be working with, because more scripts we get, more films we can make, faster we can make. But unfortunately, they don't come. I keep really scouting for good scripts, or even if I have some ideas which I feel somebody can develop it, I keep giving it out to people outside and say, okay, let's work on it. And I in fact spend a lot of time working with other people also. So now there's certain projects which have developed, like this web series we did. We worked with somebody else, but then again I got Abhijat in the end, and we worked on it together. So I'm absolutely open. I in fact want scripts, constantly want scripts. And
so now that you mentioned the web series, this is the one that has Vikrant Massey and your sons in it, and there's there's a bunch of other actors in it. Now, when you wrote it, and like that's what we talked about, that the script being the toughest part of anything. What was in your view, what was the most difficult about writing for this kind of format versus a 2.5 or 3 hour film?
This happened during COVID period. I just happened to come across some bunch of short stories related to a subject, which I thought there was a potential for a series, because I realized that maybe it's not, one it's a longer story, 2 it didn't seem like for cinema, and now everybody was doing web series. You also keep watching, so I felt let's give this a shot. But there are certain stories which are longer than 2.5, 3 hours that won't fit in, and also certain stories are, I guess, not meant for cinema halls. So this was one such story, and there was time in that period, so I kind of started developing it. It took a lot of time. I went through again ups and downs, and now we've started shooting it. So it's a different ball game, but we've taken chances with it. We've tried to make it like a tight and keep it like a film, and let's see where it goes.
But what is the process, is it different because you have to think in chunks of time as opposed to pre-interval and post-interval, like that?
No, I don't think it's any different. It's
the same.
Finally your job is to keep the audience engaged, entertain them. It's not different. Okay. Because interval points are, you can write any script and create one dramatic scene in the interval and call it interval. So as Hitchcock would say, that whenever I get stuck in a script, I just make a man enter in the room with a gun. Interval. He didn't say interval, but so you can always create a dramatic point to create an interval. So even in films, I don't look at it. I said, let's write the script, then we'll create an interval.
Right.
So.
Also, you don't say because a lot of...
That's a matter of structuring. I'm saying structuring is not really going to hold up. You have a great entertainment point, and before that it's boring, and after that it's boring. What sense does it make?
Yeah.
So you write a full script. Write a script which is engaging you from the beginning, and then okay, you want to create an interval, you want to create a hook. Similarly in web series, end of it you want to create a hook. That's actually the simplest thing to do. I don't think it's complicated at all.
So you don't actually, when you're writing a script, you don't think about the interval point at all?
No, not at the inception of it, that I get worried about interval. That interval is such a big thing that people will, you keep them entertained till whatever time and stop it wherever you want,
Right.
It's okay. But because to me, most important is to create an engaging
Full narrative
story, characters, which keep you engaged, entertained through the journey of this thing. And that should come later.
Right. The decision of the interval. Wow, because that's such a huge point of our films. It's kind of, many people think about that, they focus on what's a good beginning, middle, end is what most people...
But of course, it's good to have a good interval point, but that'll come. You can't say, okay, I'm writing a film, let's start with the interval point. First, get your story right, you'll get a great point.
Which was the toughest of your films to crack in terms of writing?
Lage Raho and PK, I think.
Okay. And because?
Lage Raho, primarily, as I said, because...
of the Gandhi element.
The moment you have a very unique plot, then it always becomes difficult to write the rest of the part. Because very early in the film, Munna Bhai meets Gandhi. He's met him in a library. Now what will happen? Now how do you raise the bar from that interest level which has already gone up here? So whatever you write seems less and less and less. So it was the biggest challenge we faced in that film was that we were constantly trying to say that his whatever he said can work in today's time. First of all, we got stuck with we wanting trying to say so much about him.
About Gandhi.
About Gandhi. Abhijat, being from Ahmedabad, he had read most of his books and he ended up reading everything possible available on him, which written into tens of thousands of pages. And then you get, this is also interesting, this is also interesting. And then we said we can't say it in a film, we have to narrow it down to one thing. So then we stuck with non-violence and truth. We said, okay, we'll stick only to talk about this. But now if you're saying that non-violence or truth can work in today's time, just by saying that it's not going to make it interesting. So we have to show it in some kind of a demo. So that the scene where he demonstrates when he goes to the radio station and he says, oh, if somebody's spitting in your house, just smile and wipe it off rather than bashing him up. Or when the guy walks into the pension office and he's asking for a buy-me takes off his. So those scenes came pretty late. As then at some stage we realized while you're writing, you're blindly moving from here to, you're still even figuring out the problems. So then we figured out that unless we show it by an example, it's not going to work. This film is not going to work. So those scenes came much later in the film. Then again, we struggled with the climax and how do we work with. So it went through. Luckily, Sanju in that period, for some other film, he cut his hair short and we couldn't use a wig, and so we had to take a break for a few months. So that gave us time to, we had started shooting, but gave us time to change quite a lot of things. So second half, we really changed a lot.
And with PK?
With PK, what happened? PK, again, same thing. When we started writing PK, then Inception came and we realized our film was like Inception. That PK had the power of actually getting into people's mind and changing what they had experienced in their life. Because we felt you become cynical about certain things if you've experienced life in a particular way. So if your experience can change, your cynicism will not be there. You'll become a different person. So we had gone on that path. So we realized now if you do this, it'll look like we've copied Inception. Then we started writing something else. Then, oh my God, came. Which is also, we had walked that path also of he going to courtroom. And so the second half kept on changing. So what we went and shot, we were not very, even before we were not very satisfied with it, and same thing happened. After it came out, it didn't look. So then we shot 20 minutes of it all over again. So that all these things put together took a lot of time.
Right. But that's a beautiful thing that you just said, because we're cynical about something until we experience it. And then if you've been through it, then, you kind of, you're one with it and you're no longer cynical about it. That's actually it's not I'm just putting it in words. It's actually nice to.
Because we might experience something in life and that might actually not be the truth because we create stories in our head.
Narratives,
We completely create narratives which suit us, where we are the center stage, we are the heroes of that narrative. And as heroes, you like empathy, we like sympathy, and we like to be, that guy has wronged me. And that guy has never wronged you. He's not even, once you start looking at it from that point of view, then you say, Arey nahi, aisa to.
And finally, Dunki. So that came about because the germ.
See, when I discovered that this, if you go to Punjab now also, in fact, now I meet more people who talk about it because the film has come. If you go to Punjab, you'll see the amount of migration, illegal migration that happens there is quite unbelievable, and we're quite unaware that it's happening right here in our country. So somewhere this Karan who used to work with me, Narvekar, who showed me one video and showed me the story that this is happening in Punjab. So we went there. I visited a lot of English speaking. So if you go to Jalandhar, Ludhiana, you'll see streets full of English speaking classes, IELTS. The whole idea is to pass this exam and go there as students. And they're teaching English, good, bad, ugly, I don't know. So I in fact walked into some of those classes, and the first thing they walk into the class, they ask you want to learn English or you want to do a dunki? So even some of them would facilitate that for you. I said, what the hell is this happening? Then historically we saw why all this started in the, after World War II, a lot of Sikh people went there to fight for the British, and then when they came back after World War, UK went through this whole crisis of a lot of men had died, so they needed labor, they needed people to in the textile industry to work. So a lot of these Sikhs went there, and that met them. They realized they were good people. So a lot of families settled there. In 61, they stopped. Now no more can come. And now somebody's brother was there, somebody's uncle was there. They said that they're having a good life. We want to go. Earlier they had the option of going anytime. Now they stopped. So they started going illegally. So I found this very, very fascinating. So that's the reason we wrote that script. And we were trying to question the whole concept of borders in a way. Because there are a lot of debates still about borders and visas and all those kind of things. You can have lots of stories, but sometimes in films, as I said, you realize that you can't say everything which you can say in a documentary.
Yeah.
So sometimes it reaches, sometimes it doesn't reach. So with Dunki, I felt it didn't, like I met a lot of people who loved it, people who've been there, a lot of NRIs who've been there and they feel, he said it's our story. But a lot of people here possibly felt that no visas, how can visas not be needed? Or it didn't resonate because it's not their problem. When you make a Three Idiots, it's every household's problem, education. So it resonated. Even if you make a PK, God, religion is everybody's. This became very area specific. So maybe it didn't resonate.
But the strange thing is, regardless of the perception, the film made a lot of money. How do you explain that? It's like, one hand they're saying this, but the film makes a lot of money. How do you...
So as I said, making money is, people go in. People could have gone in for the love of Shah Rukh Khan. People have gotten
Or you.
for love of anybody. So you go in with expectations, and so film can still do well. But you judge from many other factors that is it getting the same amount of love from the messages, from everything you read between lines and try and figure out. So, but as I said, I will know really many years down the line that sometimes you have films which people start liking later, and so you never know. To me, it's as special as any other film we put in as much effort for. So
Yeah. In fact, I don't know which director said that, but sometimes I think Yash Chopra said that he liked Lamhe the most of his films because that was the child that didn't get that much love, or I don't know. So, but you spoke about perception. I've always wondered about one thing. Shah Rukh is a gigantic star, very beloved actor, been there for decades. But recently, whenever he's collaborated with a director who's also got a brand of their own, let's say, whether it's Imtiaz Ali in Harry Met Sejal, whether it's you in Dunki, whether it's Anand L. Rai in Zero, it's one of my, I just love that movie. I don't know why. I just everybody asks me why I like that movie so much. I don't know. Something speaks in it to me. But somehow these films are seen as, they're perceived as okay, they didn't do the thing that they should. Why do you think that is?
See, I don't think we should see any pattern in that and draw conclusions out of that. It's a...
I also realize it may be an unfair question. So
no, it could be a... See, Shah Rukh, I can't tell you the joy I had working with him. He's such a prepped up actor. He used to come prepared and the conversations, and he used to make it. I had great fun doing the film. Now, why it's
there's no pattern.
Coincidence. There's a word. Otherwise, this word wouldn't exist in the dictionary. So maybe next time it will happen. Maybe so. You never really can find a reason for. I don't think there's any.
Yeah. That also brings me to the other thing that I have is that because of certain films not working, actors have to see. Okay, if I want to go there or here or something like that, and he found his mojo again with Pathan and Jawan and those kinds of things. Yeah. What do you think people want today? What is working today? As a director, you must be thinking about it, right? It's like a...
Yeah, see, times keep changing, habits keep changing, the way they're watching content is changing. So I notice actually, forget everywhere, in my own house, I keep, everybody's watching just reels. Non-stop short content they're watching. Attention spans have gone down. Even in cinema halls, whenever you go, they're watching a film, they're still on their phone. Yeah. Watching reels. Things are changing. The way they're going to see cinema, it's obviously changing. So, even if we go back to cinema of the 30s, 40s, we can't watch that pace anymore. They had more time, they had more space, they would sit peacefully to watch that 3-hour film. the speed of the film kept on changing, the grammar kept on changing. Now we were understanding also things faster. So I think those are things we'll need to get aware of, that there has to be a certain speed to our films. We'll have to learn from that, but if we start picking, so a lot of people come to me and say, we analyze trends of what is working. So say these 1,000 films released and we realized that these 5 films worked. So I think that's not a very conclusive way of judging, because that's those 1,000 films released that year. Suppose all action released and you're saying, okay, from this they're watching this. So whether other kind of stories will not work, I think stories will always work. It's just a matter of time. Some good films will come, some that year they'll work. If bad films come, so stories will continue, and you really can't change yourself totally to say, okay, this is working, so I'm not going to make that, because you might not be equipped to make it. You have to go with your own gut and say that. But you have to be aware that the way people are viewing things is changing. Your challenges are fighting a YouTube or, because there's no, there was a time there was a visual thirst. Every Friday, people wanted to step in and kuch dekhte hain screen pe. Now that visual thirst is over. It's on their phones. Any content, any film, anything they want to see, they're constantly watching this. So unless you give them something very, very interesting, they will not step out. That's why I look at that. I feel the marketing also has become FOMO marketing now, Just create something around the film which people don't want to be left out from, and they ek baar to dekh lete hain. And also, 100 days of cinema has happened. And now with OTT coming in, the stories we never thought we'll be able to see are on the platform from the world. So people have seen everything. So to give them something unique is becoming more challenging for filmmakers. Right. But I guess that's where our challenges are there, and that's what we should fight and still try and find something interesting, unique, and
yeah. But the film that you're working on right now, I'm sure there's something on your mind and you're working on it.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about all this while the story is developing, right?
No, I judge myself completely by one parameter, that while writing, am I laughing or crying with it? If I'm not doing that, I'm not saying, okay, now I'll create a great action scene and this thing, because there are guys who are doing it superbly well. I can't,
But then
people are not for the sake of it. If you get a story which wants that, you'll go ahead and do that.
Right.
As you said, Sanju wanted that drugs and underworld or dunki, had that killings on the borders, and used to laugh. He said, you killed 10, 12 people in dunki, whereas you had just one slap in rest of your 4 films. So a script will take you wherever it needs to take you. But artificially, the moment you start saying, okay, this is working, I'm going to, then I think it's a trap.
Right, but have you ever thought, because I read an article long back saying that, you used to watch Tamil films at Aurora Theatre in Mattung. I don't know if it's still there.
It's still there.
It's still there.
You should watch all the Kamal Hassan films.
Yeah. So you mentioned Mahanadi. You mentioned Setu. You mentioned Pitamagan. All of these dark, violent, somebody chops off their arm, and, of course, Setu, all that, it became Tere Naam, that whole. So, have you ever been like, let's go into a twisted zone, let's go into a darker zone? Has that ever, like for a change, let's do, has that ever occurred to you?
I don't know.
Because you've seen all these films.
And I enjoy all kinds of cinema, but finally there'll be a story which will pull you. And if that story needs this
darkness,
then you'll do. So a lot of people say you make all. I said, no, all my films are not good. If you look at Sanju, it's not a film like that, or look at Dunki, it's not like that, or PK also, so every story is in a way, it's different. You find there's a message you find in it, but in fact, some of those dark things I really enjoy. And but eventually there has to be a bigger story around it too. Right. Not for the heck of it that, okay, now let me think of a dark. You can't you have to start with a great story thought. Hey, this is a story I want to tell. Not the other way around. That's okay, let's tell a dark story this time and then go looking for it.
Right.
So
no, the reason I asked is not let's go for a dark story, but also because one of the things that people love about your films is the fact that whatever the subject, there's so much humor. There is a lot of like moments that you know, you try to create those moments that make you smile or laugh or whatever it is, right? It's like, because you know, it is possible to write these stories without that.
Absolutely.
So you create those moments because you want people to enjoy them more. So that's why I was asking you whether you said, okay, let's go away from this and see what we can. That's what I was very curious about. So that humor is, because it's such an integral, even in Dunki, which is, again, the topic is so serious, but there are many moments in the movie that are you know, making you laugh. So,
but I realize now people are open to real stories, are open to, there's no pressure of passing on filmmakers that, oh, you have to make them laugh or you have to make them this thing. If you're honest with them, because they're now exposed to world cinema, so be honest with your story and give them a realistic story. Also, they'll come and watch it, as long as you can engage them. I think the engagement is the key word. In engage them in a story. You don't necessarily have to make them laugh. Keep them hooked. Where it's going for 3 hours, they'll watch it.
but is it really true that they're exposed to world cinema? Because yes, there may be some pockets that are watching this. Somebody in the OTTs told me that the only two things that people watch are films in their own language and films in English. Those are the main two categories of things that they consume. Like if you're like Gujarati, for instance, you watch Gujarati cinema and you watch English films. If you're Tamil, you watch Tamil films and you watch English films or whatever it is. So on the one side I'm hearing this, on the other side I keep hearing everybody saying now we're exposed to world cinema. But is that really the case? Because I'm just like,
no, you're right. Maybe you're right. There'll be few who will pick up a Spanish film, or there's a whole bunch which are in Korean dramas. There's also
but
another
those,
bunch. Again, it might be very city-centric at few
because your films travel everywhere. You know, it's not like a Mumbai hit or something like that, right? It's like
But still, I feel they have had some exposure to. Before OTT, exposure to English cinema also was very little. Films will release in the theatre, only specific kind of cinema will release. So somewhere the exposure has
kind of
increased. So it's also they become more film literate. Their way of, they want to see performances in a certain way. Now they see anything over the top performance, they say, of course, there's an audience completely for that. The great thing about cinema is like food, I feel, you know. There's an audience for this kind of cinema, it's audience for Chinese food, audience for Italian food. So you have a audience for all kinds of cinema.
Things, One of the things that you mentioned, that there was, you know, things that you're working on at that COVID period. Are any of these, you know, the sequels that everybody keeps asking for, which are, in fact, in your Wikipedia entry, when you look at the filmography, after Dunki, it says PK2. It's just like, it's almost like that film is getting made. And of course, Munna Bhai, everybody keeps asking about.
Every morning I discover I'm making this one in the newspapers. So see, Munna Bhai is something I do want to make, because I have an idea and I think it's a very unique idea. It's just that, again, struggling with the script. So that's something I want to do. 3 Idiots, I don't have an idea, but if we can make that, it'll be just great to be working with the same bunch of people. We had great joy working with it. I have few ideas, but they're too nascent to really. So, as I said, again, you're not looking at it as business opportunities. Acha, ye bana lo. Finally, a story will just pull you and say, okay, I want to be made.
Right. So, we hope there are many more stories. Thank you so much for your time. It's been a real pleasure learning from you.
So much.
To be very frank, there have been some films of yours that have worked better for me than the others. But one thing I've always respected is your commitment to that particular, world or universe, and trying to explore. Like I'll always think, like, how did he put a joke there? You know, like how did this subject become entertaining, or how did something else? You know, how did he do that? You know, and that's always amazing for me in your films, because it's like, you know, it's like, see, you take a funny subject, that's different. But then these are not funny subjects, and to kind of make entertaining films out of them that resonate, and, you know, like, you know, that I think that's so I think you explained that quite well. Thank you so much.
It's such a pleasure.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
The Vivo V50 with stunning design and pro-level portrait photography. Buy now.
Velamal feels proud to honor the physical education teachers with 5 cars and 15 lakhs.
South India's #1 travel brand. You know you are special when you're with GT Holidays.